U.S. intelligence agency mind control.
Get into this, but apparently the reporting out of this House Democrats meeting is that a bunch of members were crying, and there's deep discontent about how to move forward. But it's like, could you guys not, like, I don't really need you to cry. I just need you to act. And it's just odd that the Democrats, despite talking about all this democracy and everything, are making these decisions in these closed-door meetings when
with the children
you poll
in the sweatshop. Stop crying, get back to work. You know, that's how she's treating our government right now.
And it's pretty overwhelming, but
she's like,
the problem is that voters have voted.
That's the thing. Dayan made that point, is that there's no democratic mechanism right now, except for, and that's part of why I think, you know, I've been vocal on this, at least trying to ramp up the pressure while we can. But there's only so much we can do.
That's from the beginning. It really is only having, like, you know.
Also, you would never primary your own party like that unless you're a fucking racist like George Wallace. That's nuts. Why would anyone do that? That's not how it works.
What? Teenager? A racist pedo? What? That's very funny timing. This is horrifying. I had to read it, so now all of you have to read it. I'm sorry. I don't make the rules here. So yeah, that's a thing.
Okay, the thing is that stink that he's smelling, right? It comes from being fully sexually developed, right? These are things that were built into us to encourage sex.
Yeah.
Right?
The pheromones and shit.
Yes. So the reason why you think that this scentless thing is better is weird.
What do you mean?
Him. You know, like the scentless virgin. You know? She's not putting off pheromones yet, bro. You're not smelling the pheromones that fucking humans give off to each other that's supposed to make your dick hard. That's weird. I would, you know, that's bizarre.
Of the basically the Democratic Congress, the House and the Senate. Maybe a couple of other, like, sort of this is all Game of Thrones stuff on some level. Except for it's not a game.
I mean, it just really stood out to me, you know, because, like, I've noticed that I stink more than when I was a teenager, you know, and teenagers have a reputation for being more stinky, you know. I've just figured out, like, how to manage my stink, you know. That's the thing with, like, teenagers, they don't know how yet.
And it's a real problem. It's a real problem.
Next time the Democrats are up for re-election in the presidency, because I don't think that democracy is over. I think probably Democrat will win a presidential election again in my lifetime, even if Trump's going to win this year. It'd be nice to maybe have a robust primary in the middle of it, especially if that guy's 80, instead of the party conspiring to foreclose that possibility.
But this is the point. I mean, this is the point, is that there, I don't know, like, what was the conspiracy? The point is that no one thought it was in their best interest to run in this primary. And there was some instances, I guess, where, like, you know, but Florida hasn't had a primary with a sitting president in ages. I mean, there was no extraordinary measures to keep anybody off the ballot. You know, Dean Phillips got on the ballot. It's just that nobody.
I don't mean official actions. I mean, like, just the way this, like, the allergy to democracy. For instance, how Bernie was still facing attacks when he was trying to run in 2016 for the Obama thing in 2012. Like, that's a fundamentally anti-democratic strain in this party that has got us to where we are now.
Or the deference to incumbency. That can, I mean, that's, I think, maybe something where we could just take a lesson forward, Sam. Right, where it's like perhaps the time to,
because I resent hearing about how there was a primary already and people voted. Like, sure. I mean, in name, maybe.
Who is it that did what you're talking about? Because I can point to 8 people who could have run, but didn't because they chose not to.
Y'all didn't let Emma finish.
Yes, people politic, but I don't think that there is a system or a place anywhere where people aren't going to politic. You know, like, you're going to get criticized for running against an incumbent. That is without a doubt. But I don't know of any system where where that wouldn't be the case.
The problem is like it's not that the system.
Okay. The fact that Biden doesn't have to debate publicly while he's president in a primary is ridiculous. I think if you can make but it's also like I understand why, because like internationally it would look bad if he gets dumpstered by some random in the Democratic Party. Like I understand.
Trump didn't either, though.
I know that's also the problem, right? Why the fuck is he even getting the nomination? He didn't do any of the debates. He should lose his position. If you don't participate in the debates, you shouldn't be able to run. People need to be able to hear what you say, but because he's a fascist and only wants to fucking get vengeance, he's just like,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna bother.
I think this is a good point too. No, like Joe Biden, like I said it, best president in a long time. You know, and I love it when people go, "Can people actually defend Joe Biden?" And they think that like nobody actually knows can cite the accomplishments. But you know, unironically, where's it for Trump? I have defended Trump more with the policy decisions he's made than anyone I know, anyone I've heard, even the Republican pundits.
Like all things considered, like if people want to give us more information of things that Trump did that was good, by all means.
Yeah.
I mean, look, earlier in the show, we were literally talking about how America's bombed like one hospital. We were wrong. And then we did 20 minutes on how America killed 42 people with an AC-130 over an hour. Is that something biased people would do? Like, what the fuck? Like, seriously, if you've got extra information of shit that Trump has done that we don't know about, please send it. Please. Because if we can mount an even more solid argument by citing even more specific things to the point where there are no ways that somebody can argue against it, then that's perfect. I want these. I want to know what Trump did that was good, because so far it's only two things, maybe three.
Honestly, though, New England is a state. You know, everything in New England has the same vibe. You know, heroin.
We need to develop or have had developed that system, and it hasn't been developed. So that's why we're here now.
I just think that's the lesson for going forward in that sense. Potentially, I mean, it also just pairs with the fact that the Democratic Party has become way too obsessed with seniority as a matter of principle. Like part of why the Congressional Black Caucus is not officially, but standing by Biden at this point is because they respect seniority more than
every other government. Right, is like they've relied too much on seniority, which is an unofficial institution inside the Democratic Party. Right, we don't mandate it like literally every other fucking democratic system does. Right, if anything, that's a W, like that. But here's the thing as well. Think about this: every other democracy, like the president just doesn't matter. They can just replace him overnight. You know. So like all the other countries around the world, they're looking at us being like, "Yo, what's happening?" I don't understand. Like people in other countries don't understand at all why Biden hasn't been replaced. They literally don't get it because they've only had a system where you can just boom, replace. They're doing a shitty job, get rid of them. Snap elections happening tomorrow. You know, that as well. You know, all these countries do snap elections and they can get rid of the candidate because they're selected from within the party. We don't do that. And it's like bizarre to all these other countries.
These guys. I'm seeing who's. I'm having a look at who's got the most viewers on Twitch at the moment.
This is true. He did cook with Space Force.
That is true.
I'm sure it would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
Because it needed to.
Yeah.
We should entirely dive off an entire information warfare sector too. That should be its own force, and it's only like, you know, that's what it does.
Yeah,
and like it would integrate with the Space Force as well, using all them satellites and shit.
So yeah, the guy with the most, I don't know why he's in politics. He's not doing anything. It's very strange. He's like watching a TV show or some shit. I don't know.
I mean, most of the Space Force is you in a chair looking at a fucking, you know, like whenever you see a submarine movie, that's what I imagine being in the Space Force is like. You know, you're just sitting in the chair seeing something bloop, in front of you, and you go, look, there's a different bloop.
Where it's enabled a gerontocratic kind of basically inertia within the Democratic Party. It boxed out democracy.
I mean, like the thing is like what's his name? I can't even remember now. The Jim Crowite that's representing Mount Vernon now. Like there was the way the party treat his challenge to a sitting Democrat versus the way it's treating others is just stark to me. And they're throwing soil on a coffin as far as I'm concerned.
There's no doubt that there is a bias against progressives, whether they're incumbents or they're challengers. That I have no doubt with that. But I think the reason why the CBC is nervous about having Harris as the president
that's me. My fucking main thing that I constantly talk about is how the United States is really stupid in this sector, and if they're gonna lose, it's gonna be there, and they have been. Like, the only reason Trump is in the situation he's in is because of cyber warfare from countries like Russia on this country. It's crazy. It's crazy how long it took him. The fact that, like, God, Cory Booker is like the first guy to bring it up about ISIS using memes. You know, that was the first time in government. So it was discussed in upper government like a total of a minute. When it's been the reason why did 9/11 happen? Because they knew how to use the internet. If the United States just had a fucking internet division, maybe 9/11 would have been prevented there.
This is a least of two bad situations. It's a bad situation to have have Harris step in. It's a worse situation to have her not step in. But the cost associated that I think some people in the Congressional Black Caucus probably perceive.
Like all empires, we made the foolish mistake of thinking we have the wall protected and nothing bad can happen. It's just a firewall this time.
With having Harris come in with an uphill climb, right, in this situation, with one hand tied behind her back on some level because it doesn't have the she's sort of inserted into the situation, is that if she loses as a Black woman, there's a lot of people who are going to be like, this is going to set back the candidacy of Black people, women for an extended period of time.
I don't necessarily agree with
that.
Well, they may be wrong, but
but she doesn't have an association. She was a very green senator from California. A lot of the Congressional Black Caucus leadership is Southern and older and more associated with the Biden era of politics, and those are where those connections are made. Kamala Harris, I don't think, has those relationships. I think that's part of the problem, right? I mean, she's how long was she a senator before she was snagged as vice president?
I mean, Clyburn walked up to it. He got nervous. Pelosi, who certainly you could describe as having
you didn't have a question.
I mean, I think she's
weighing it according to Axios.
Stop with the patriarchal bullshit.
Is that I think that, if you look at why there was fear about Barack Obama running,
I can't
in the Black community. The Black community, he had the least amount of support in the Black community of multiple.
Look, she's so fired up and ready to go. Just shut up,
the Black community or the Black Congressional Black Caucus, which is entirely different because the majority of Black voters say that Biden is too old to serve. So they're not representing the American. I'm honestly, this is not anything to do with what you're saying. I'm so disgusted to see the way the Democratic
over this whole thing.
Party uses Black people in their extremely cynical ploys when Biden is going out to Black radio stations at this point and apparently this host got fired because she agreed to these pre-prepared questions that the Biden campaign provided for them. And then he goes to a Black church.
Hang on. She got fired because she let it slip that she was given pre-prepared questions.
Okay.
Which is like, oh no, a presidential candidate came to a radio show and you had pre-prepared questions? Crazy. It's not really like it's one of those industry secret things, but it's like because of the situation right now, you made President Biden look bad. We saw the interview with that radio host. Do you not think she was genuine in her fucking support of Biden?
Yeah.
order to paper over his horrific debate performance without actually dealing with the fact that black voters in this country, when polled, have deep concerns about his candidacy, I think it's actually really gross. And that's the problem. There's a disconnect between the CBC and what general people in the country and within the Democratic Party think, which has been the case for quite a while. And I will also say the Democrats have not won an election since Bill Clinton, a presidential election without a black person on the ticket.
Damn.
Obama twice, and Kamala Harris is vice president. I think it's overblown, and I think it's a lot of people being scared.
Look, now who's getting talked over?
Going down this road, we're guaranteeing a Trump victory. I mean, this is where we're at this
and not
point.
even a good fight. Like a Trump victory might be in the cards. It'd be nice to put up a fight and elaborate.
But you keep saying when we are going down this road, the point is that like there is a calculation that people are making that they cannot dislodge Biden. And if you cannot dislodge Biden and you are terrified of a Trump presidency, at one point it's a game of chicken. And if he says, I am willing to crash this and go over the ledge, then if you are afraid of a Trump presidency and are not going to be satisfied by saying at least Biden gave it his all, then you back off that precipice because you have no other chance. And then you you support him. I mean, that's what's going on here.
Well, they're hedging, but the point is that they keep saying this week. Chris Murphy last night on MSNBC. We'll see how this week plays out.
Going to prove
that they were like, what happens if you lose to Trump? How are you going to feel? And Biden was like, well, as long as I did enough, I got the participation trophy. Like, that answer was fucking wild in that George Stephanopoulos fucking interview.
Yeah.
That was a wild thing for him to say. Well, we tried to stop fascism, did everything I could. Did you? Ruth Biden Ginsburg.
Himself.
They're waiting for more data. They're waiting for this press conference that Biden does on Thursday.
They're waiting for him to fall apart again to make it easier. And if it doesn't fall apart, there's really not a lot they can do.
I'm aware that it's not a lot. There's a lot that they can do to convince Biden, except for the fact that every time I turn on my television, it's the only story, and it will not go away. It is the only story. We're not talking about, and I if I see one more person be like, talk about Project 2025 instead of this, that's fair. But there's only so much of that can happen. This is actually an issue of national interest where there's people I know, like family members who don't vote, who were like, I hate Trump. But this guy, they're lying to us again. And I know this is anecdotal, but it's backed up by the data and all of the polling that we're seeing, where this is actually really making people feel deeply cynical.
When she gives an anecdotal reference and then says, I know it's anecdotal, but this is backed up by data.
Mm.
And like, what a queen. She's fucking killing it on this. When they are letting her talk. She's right. Sam's wrong.
More long-term about the political system, and as I said on the Friday about Monday replacing him with Kamala Harris, the Democrats have a built-in advantage to be the party that listens when both people hate these candidates. And Kamala Harris is polling at least 1 point right now ahead of Trump when Biden's down. And at this time last year, Biden was up by 8 points in the national average. The Democrats have to overperform 3 to 4 points in the popular vote, as a rule for the most part, for them to win the Electoral College. And then Biden is also down in every swing state and putting Virginia, Wisconsin in peril, New Mexico, unthinkable, Minnesota.
Very impressive.
Like, we're not just talking about a Trump victory. We're talking about a Trump victory with both chambers. And that should be 5-alarm fire for any party that actually tries to represent the people and says that they apparently
the numbers and stuff like that. Very impressive. Very difficult to do. She really fucking cares about this, clearly.
Claim that this is a threat to democracy and my rights.
You know what it was?
My rights are on the line.
You know what it was? That guy who was like patronizing her, she went home and was just mad and did a bunch of Googling.
Here to get an abortion, if I want one or if I need one, my rights are on the line. We're going to play around with this. So I know I'm emotional about this, but I'm scared. And I do think that it's a salient political point if you have the first female president potentially with abortion on the ballot in 2 of those swing states, Nevada and in Arizona, in addition to Florida, Montana, and Arkansas, where Democrats could overperform with it on the ballot.
I mean, Osita Waneva made the exact point that they're
right.
absolutely blowing it with generations as far as like political messaging goes. And like, that's the thing is like, I think that Trump is going to win now. I hope he doesn't. I hope Biden, if he's going to stay in, I hope he loses. I think that that we need to start preparing for what it's going to look like. Yeah. Because like, the thing is like,
just like how France
the fun of what Project 2025 is clearly the Democrats investing your time in Democrats, like the party, is not exactly the greatest thing to do. I think we need to be preparing like broader organizations, like the people who opposed, like the organizations that developed, say, proposing the Muslim ban, like these sort of direct action things, because that's where we're at now, and that's how things have gotten done in this country. People realizing that actually,
I agree with him too.
The election's
More
good.
direct
I hope
action.
that the balance of power comes out as favorably as possible going forward. But these people are not to be trusted with anything that they actually put in the campaign email.
And I want to say one more thing. Quit it with the polling is wrong. Quit it. This is MAGA level delusion I'm seeing from Democrats about the polling. The polling was within 1 point of accuracy for the last midterm cycle, and Republicans overperformed by 1. And the last midterm cycle before that, it was right in line. Democrats overperformed by 1 point. And with the 2020 election, actually, it was pretty dead on for Biden. But the margins were incredibly thin because of our electoral college system. So I don't want to hear
because I looked at polls, I was able to say the exact point difference. I didn't say what states would be won. I said the exact fucking score, and it ended up being the exact fucking electoral score. I did that because I looked at polling and I did research. She's right.
Completely complete eschewing of facts enabled by Biden and his complete delusion about polling. Yeah, it is. It's wrong. It's wrong. We have to take the poll seriously, and you know, this is crossing ideological lines. This is from the Pod Save America guys to a guy like Adam Smith, who's on one of the more conservative Democrats in the House, ranking member of Armed Services, to the pollsters like Nate Cohn, to Nate Silver. They all are united in saying 5-alarm fire. And so I know there's very little democratic mechanism to influence the Biden administration here, but the more it's in the conversation, the more in this tiny window, the more I think there's a likelihood.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, he's Matt Glacius came out against him. That's one of his favorite writers, apparently.
And Tom Friedman. And also Dick Durbin is still undecided. We'll see what happens with the Senate meeting.
I mean, I think honestly, these meetings this afternoon are going to be the big tell. If they don't come out of it with a sense that the caucuses are against this, maybe they say we're going to have another meeting Friday. But I think it's a real problem. Now, I don't know how long his press conference is on Thursday night. My guess is that if there's any indication that there's not a strong push to get rid of him coming out of these meetings, that press conference is going to be about 15 minutes, and they're going to take 3 questions, and he's going to know, like, look, the best thing for me to do is just not put myself out there in any way at this point, because I can only it's mine to lose at that point. Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, look, this is I got a text last night. He referenced, some of his family members, but a buddy of mine, not, hugely political, but he's like, I'm convinced every white person 65 and above is selfish and entitled.
Elder Zion. I mean, I wrote that book. That's a great book.
It was basically
my parents are in their 60s, and they're like, get the hell out, because we got to defeat Trump. So
he's like, then we just kept adding people, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Breyer, it goes on. But
and it's not about the Democratic voters, too. It's about the independents. Like, that's what I can't say. If I go out and vote for Biden, we still love Biden. Sure, the Democrats will vote for Biden. That's not the question.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, like, people like, don't you think that you're voting administration? Yeah, I've been saying that for like over a year now. But getting the American public, the American electorate to understand that's a pretty big ask to be the most savvy election people to pull to fill out a ballot. It's just not going to happen.
No. Comrade.
Sounds like that debate has been tapped.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?